Hardcore WoW, it's one of the most fun and frustrating modes in World of Warcraft. The chance to get legendary loot, the chance to clear impossible raids on a permadeath character with insane stake, and the chance to conquer World of Warcraft Classic on the most impressive and difficult mode. But reaching level 60 and having millions of players cheering your name, it's not as easy as it looks. Without the proper plan, you'll be back at the starting zone time and time again, which means frustration and it means burnout too. So let's talk about the best secrets to stay alive in hardcore WoW. We'll be covering mindset first, the tricks that took me years to learn that are going to significantly improve your chances of survival in hardcore. Then we're talking must-have add-ons to stay alive all the way to 60. These are going to make your leveling better, your questing better, your survival better, your groups better. You need to get these add-ons. One of the biggest problems with hardcore, people have the complete wrong approach, the wrong mentality to it. See, staying alive in hardcore is so much more important than any other aspect of the mode. It doesn't matter how fast you level in hardcore, how many shortcuts you take. If you die in hardcore, everything is over. You have to start all over again. Take the game slower, take the game more methodically, and start thinking, if I die, it's going to cost me so much more time than the time I'd be saving right now. See, behind the scenes, the top players, the ones that are really succeeding in hardcore, they're actually taking the game much more methodically than it appears. Sure, they might be leveling fast, and that is a product of years and years of doing the same route, linking quests together very effectively. But that's not their secret to success. They understand what's actually risky, and they understand what matters. Things like professions, having engineering, making sure you get items like sticky glue, slumber sand, magic dust, always having these in your toolbox. So when something horrible inevitably happens, because it will, the more tools in your toolbox, the more things you've methodically done in advance, the things that might be considered boring, they're really going to save you. And the most successful hardcore players, they're also maxing their first aid, for example. They're cooking, making sure they're fully buffed every time they go in the open world. So one other key on mentality, if you can, the Deathlog add-on is really going to help you. Being able to see exactly what people did wrong ahead of you in the leveling range, that is so helpful. For example, you can see, okay, a lot of people are dying to the Undercity elevator. They're dying in certain locations in the Barrens. You've got to be extra careful. Having just a little bit of warning about what's going to be dangerous in every area, it is very valuable. Add-ons are also really the secret sauce to never dying in hardcore. So there's really a couple categories of add-ons, and we'll start with the safety add-ons. The first one you have to get is a low health weak aura. I'll link one below the video, but really you need something that plays a very loud sound. It makes a very big flashing image on your screen. You're going to drastically decrease the chances of dying. Similarly, I would definitely recommend the Hardcore Unit Scan add-on. It's gonna alert you anytime there's any scary mob near you. And this is exactly what you need to make sure you don't have any horrible fiascos running into some elite mob. One note though is that Unit Scan has not caught everything on my run so far. For example, in Ashen Vale, there was a guard that I bumped into that Unit Scan didn't go off for, so it's not something where you can completely turn your brain off. So another really incredible hardcore add-on to use is the classic Bestiary. Similarly to the hardcore Unit Scan add-on, the Bestiary is so good because it gives you tooltips of every dangerous mob in the entire game. Whenever you're doing a quest, you can look at the abilities of a mob and immediately see, okay, this mob is way too dangerous. He's got this ability we've got to look out for. For example, in Alterac Mountains, there was a mage that polymorphed for 20 seconds, and that could have easily killed our duo if we didn't know about it. So you may have noticed I've mentioned playing with a friend, and this is something you really want to have if you're playing a duo, if you're playing a trio. It's the classic heal prediction add-on. If you play in a duo, this is so good because it's going to tell you anytime a heal is incoming, which means my partner, who is all the way to level 35, he never had to use a single healing potion on his warrior, which is crazy to me. He always knew a heal was coming, he always knew he was safe, and it meant we also didn't have to play in Discord the entire time. Because usually if you're healer and DPS, you have to be in Discord for 100 plus hours, and that can get a little bit dragging. So on top of safety add-ons, another add-on you've got to have is questing. Whether you use a questing add-on like Rested XP or Guideline, for example, or not, it's not so important as having questy. Because if you have questy, that alone is enough to get through all the way to 60, just with those map markers. As for leveling routes, there is a word of serious caution here for you, which is, yes, I've used Rested XP, I've used Guideline. Questing add-ons are really good at one specific thing, linking together quests, making sure you don't miss quests. But the problem with these leveling guides is they are often going to put you in locations where you're too low level to be there. You have to always question, is this a good place to be? Should I be in this location that the guide is sending me? Or should I grind, for example? Should I do something else for at least a level or two so I really lower the risk of dying? So with add-ons out of the way, we've got to figure out exactly how to hit 60 with the perfect strategy. If we have the right strategy, we are nearly guaranteed success, and that means endgame dungeons and raids and slaying Ragnaros and getting epic loot. And if we have the wrong strategy, it means going straight back to Valley of Trials. So first, you have to stop taking unnecessary risks for no reason. That means absolutely no elite quests unless you're in a 5-man group, or you've done 60s on multiple hardcore characters and you're just looking for the extra challenge. You've got to remember, no matter what zone you're thinking of doing, if you add 2 levels, it's going to probably be a lot safer to do. Every single level has insane grinding spots for gold, for XP. See, why wouldn't you want to get your mount at level 40 instead of waiting until levels 45, level 50? Grinding might be a little bit slower, but having your mount at 40 is going to skyrocket your leveling speed. I do have a video in the top right, ultimate gold farming and grinding spots. Really helpful for hardcore, not enough people do that. One word of advice would be to try to be the lowest level character in any dungeon you do. That way you're always kind of looking for players that are higher level and trying to make the dungeon safer. And it's also players that are most likely slightly more experienced than you because they are higher in the first place. We just have to get away from the mentality that you have to do a dungeon at exactly that optimal level. You're still getting good experience even if you're a little bit over leveled, and you're getting insane gear that'll really pay off for levels. So the third aspect to succeeding in hardcore, really making sure you don't die, is to understand that duos and trios and even 5-mans, they can drastically change the entire game mode. See, when you have 2 players worth of health, of damage, of mana, you are able to do so much more. You can grind so much faster. You can do elite quests that are otherwise way too risky solo. And really, it starts to be that guides like Rested XP start to make sense when you have 2 players, because you're able to actually do these quests without very much risk. In the case of a 5-man, for example, you could even do some really cool hyperspawn farms all the way to level 30. Things like the crabs, the gnolls, where you're getting more experience in questing, but you're 100% safe just chilling in Discord. There are really 2 other benefits to doing these duos, the trios, the 5-mans. First, you're able to do dungeons so much easier. If you have a tank and healer ready to go, you could form any dungeon you want in like 5 minutes. The other thing that's so amazing though is disconnects are such a common part of hardcore. They're a really big concern for players. If you have 2 players, if you have 3 players, you're drastically lowering the chance of a disconnect actually killing your character. So with your hardcore mentality corrected, the idea that instead of it being a race, every shortcut, everything you do for speed running, it has that high chance of sending you back to the starting zone, which is going to cost you so much more time. Then having the right add-ons, making sure you have every single add-on for survivability, for optimal questing, to really make your experience as safe and as successful as possible so you actually reach 60. Understanding that maybe a trio is the exact way you're going to hit 60, and you're going to be safe from disconnects, and you're going to have way more fun doing it. No matter what though, the key is to remember that even if you die, it's always a learning experience. There's always something to get out of the experience, so do not despair. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, or stitches might show up the second you get up for snacks. Then check out my ultimate gold making guide to get your mount immediately at level 40 while you're grinding.